A Christmas village and model train have been part of many families' Christmas traditions for generations. But do you know how all this started? And did you know that there have been several versions of the Christmas village inspired by the artwork of Norman Rockwell? This week, we'll take a closer look at this holiday staple on this edition of Artifact of the Week. The earliest Christmas villages can be traced back to nativity scenes depicting the birth of Jesus and the visit of the Magi to Bethlehem. St. Francis of Assisi is credited in staging the first living nativity in 1223 as part of a Christmas Eve service in an Italian mountain village that he was visiting. St. Francis was concerned that the meaning of Christmas was becoming lost, and to him people appeared to be much more focused on the ritual gift-giving of the season instead of the true message of Christmas. His nativity scene included a manger, an ox, and a donkey. In 1291, Pope Nicholas IV commissioned an Italian sculptor to carve the first inanimate nativity scenes out of marble to celebrate St. Francis's nativity and to give prominence to the relic of the manger. Over the next century, nativity scenes, both live and inanimate, spread to nearly every church in Europe. Eventually, nativity scenes made their way into people's homes, where their complexity grew over time. In Germany, the tradition was to add more animals, sheep, camels, oxen, and townspeople to the scene. Additional scenery such as trees, bushes, even frozen ponds and streams made of small mirrors or aluminum foil were added. Soon, more buildings and structures made their way into these elaborate nativity scenes. These seasonal communities were called Putzes, from the German word Put, or setup. Now, over time, the tradition transferred from German families to other cultures, and people would spend a great deal of time putzing around or tweaking these displays right up to Christmas. Eventually, the clash between the religious nativity and the secular community of buildings, figures, and accessories built up around it pushed the nativity back out into its own setting and allowed each family the opportunity to arrange an impressive Christmas village display based on their interest and abilities. These displays were called Christmas gardens, and in many homes could take up an entire room. The houses and buildings used to create the Christmas garden in the late 1800s and early 1900s were cardboard boxes that contained candy and were shaped much like houses. Most of them originated in Germany and were called candy boxes. The candy box houses had patterns printed on the cardboard walls to make them look more realistic. Placing the Christmas garden or Christmas village under the Christmas tree began in the 1900s and peaked in the 1960s when families set houses, scenery, and other accessories around their Christmas trees. In the early 1920s, pasteboard buildings made in Japan began to become more popular. By the mid to late 1920s, these pasteboard houses had colored cellophane windows and a hole in the back where an electronic Christmas tree light, which were just becoming available to consumers, could be inserted to illuminate the buildings of the village. The pasteboard houses also started out with printed patterns on the walls and eventually gave way to solid paint and glitter by the 1930s. These new glitter-covered structures were called glitter houses. The early 1900s also saw the introduction of model electric trains as part of the Christmas village. The development of track that could run around the base of the tree allowed the train and the Christmas village to be combined with little regard to scale or to the era of train and village combinations. Christmas villages were also expanded to include farm animals, vehicles, characters, and even Christmas-themed items such as Santa's reindeer, snowmen, carolers, and more. By the 1960s, the popularity of Christmas villages started to wane, as houses no longer included rooms that could be dedicated to these elaborate displays. Also, people just couldn't seem to find time in their schedules to spend tending to these Christmas creations. In the mid-1970s, a company called Department 56 began a resurgence in the Christmas village world by creating and selling a ceramic-based village of a number of buildings. Other companies got involved in making these types of products and even started to license villages based on themes such as Thomas Kincaid's artwork, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Elf, Star Wars, Harley-Davidson, and many others. These new villages were sold as a complete set in a one-time sale, or with an introductory set and new pieces being issued every subsequent Christmas season, or by a subscription plan where new editions were shipped directly to the customer on a set schedule for the run of the series. In 1966, Norman Rockwell created his famous painting, Home for Christmas, also known as Stockbridge Main Street at Christmas. This painting is a remarkable panoramic view of his adopted hometown of Stockbridge, Massachusetts. The image was published in McCall's magazine in December of 1967 and is regarded as one of Rockwell's finest works. It is also unique in that it is a landscape, whereas most of Rockwell's works are of people. In the 1980s, it became the first painting to have sculptures inspired by its imagery licensed by the Norman Rockwell Family Trust. These sculptures were produced under the hallmark of Rhodes Studios. In the 1990s, Hawthorne, under a license from the Trust, created the Rockwell Christmas in Stockbridge collection. These beautiful handcrafted and hand-painted buildings are part of the collection at the National Scouting Museum and bring to life Rockwell's famous painting. In 1971, inspired by a 5 or so mile bicycle ride that Rockwell completed almost every day, he painted his work Stockbridge in Springtime. This painting featured his family riding past the picturesque village green. Rhodes also licensed and created this collection of sculptures called Rockwell's Hometown Collection in the 1990s. Well, that's all we have time for this week. As we share these special items from this collection of the National Scouting Museum, we also want to wish each of you, your friends, and your family happy holidays and a very Merry Christmas. Join us next time as we wrap up 2021 and welcome 2022 with more of the history of the Boy Scouts of America and additional items from the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.